there are so many things that I would like to ask you about this time because you had the opportunity to drive the Tyrrell in '84, the aspirated car, when Martin Brundle had his accident.
Yeah.
Then you were invited to Toleman, and it was a hard turbo car. And the Toleman 1984 was at the end of the season was quite a different car from the beginning of the season. It was a season when they developed a lot, uh,
Yeah.
changing from Pirelli tires to Michelin tires and changing the chassis. The Rory Byrne chassis was looked like being very stable and very
Yeah.
balanced. And also the Hart engine, it had a huge development throughout the year,
Yeah.
so that when it came to the end of the year, it seemed to be a nice package. But I must ask you before if you can compare the driving skills and the performance of the Tyrrell car, the Toleman car, and then I gotta ask you about that specific period of time in Formula One because, in my opinion, qualifying in 1984, 1985, 1986 was one of the peaks of Formula One ever because
Yeah.
it was simply unbelievable. You had too much power and you didn't have that control. You didn't have the brakes. You didn't have the tires. You didn't have the downforce you needed to control such a brutal power. And the tracks were not secure.
Yeah.
When you look, you guys racing in Brands Hatch, the track was too small for those cars. The cars didn't fit that. They were too powerful to the track. So it's visually it's amazing to see. And Nigel Mansell said that the car tried to kill you on every corner. So
Yeah.
I must hear from you about that period of time and also the cars you drove before Ferrari, especially Tyrrell and the Toleman. What can you tell us about those cars and that period of time that's so rich, so amazing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Tyrrell was wildly different from it because it was the only normally aspirated car left on the grid at that point. But it was a lovely little car. I mean, super nimble. It felt like a little go kart to drive. You could throw it around and really, it was not an easy car to drive, but very. You could really hustle the car, and just drive it as hard as you liked, really. But it was massively underpowered. So, I mean, my only goal with Tyrrell was to beat Beloff, which because he was very highly regarded at the time, and I did beat him every race we did actually. Um, so it kind of helped me obviously in my career development, because I was trying to get back into Formula One, and show what I could do. So then the Toleman drive opened when Johnny Ciccotta had his accident, and then I ended up being teammates with Ayrton for the last few races there, and. And the Toleman was a very good car. I don't think anyone realized how good the car was. It was a Rory Byrne, who then obviously subsequently went on to be the chief designer at Ferrari, and Benetton, and won many world championships, of course, But the Rory Byrne and Pat Simmons, which was the two basic designers, engineers there. I mean, they were two of the best guys in Formula One history, basically. So the car and every single car drove from Rory. It's like I don't know what he did with the geometry of these cars, but it had such harmony, so calm and quiet. Like some race cars, like the Ferrari, for example, in '85 was very fast, but very nervous and very reactive all the time. But this one, you just you turn to the apex, and the car would just be exactly where you wanted it to be, right on the spot where you aimed for. And so you had a lot of time to think about everything. Let's say with Ferrari, you still get the speed out of it, but you're fighting the car the whole time. Really working the car all the time to get the speed out of it. But and then the '85 Toleman, which I tested in Rio, before the start of the season, was unbelievable. I mean, that's probably the best F1 car I ever drove. In fact, ever. It was so good, this car, but I never got to race it because they didn't have the tires. So and then Ferrari came and offered the drive. So of course, I took the Ferrari drive, but needless to say. But but again, I think Gerhard Berger and Theo Fabi, who was in the no one realized how good that car was because we went fastest in the testing at Rio, on the first testing, even with that, and the Hart engine had some issues and it wasn't running very clean. So I mean, the car was super fast.